Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, this is Redberry Weo here, and welcome back to my Learn to Lead series. Now, I know you guys have been patient, and if you're new to this series, hey, welcome. And if you're not, then, well, you've been awesome, and you've stuck with me this far, and it's taken a little bit of time for this episode, but I hope you guys enjoy it. To summarize, we're going to be talking about a few major components within Chapter 3, which is called the art and the science. We're going to talk about the Air Force definition of leadership, American leadership assumptions, what makes a leader, a little bit about great man theory and trait theory, and we'll also be talking about the American flag etiquette and how we need to treat the flag with respect. The Air Force definition of leadership is the art and the science of influencing and directing people to accomplish the assigned mission. Now let's break down these components to be more comprehensible. The art is talking about the imagination and the creative skill that's required of leaders, because you have to creatively think to come up with solutions to problems or in ways to engage your people even. And the science kind of talks about how it's an academic subject and people study this for a living, and it's very interesting. The last portion of this definition, the mission, is why the team exists, and this is the most important responsibility of the leader. Leadership has three main components to it: the leader, follower, and the goal. And without one of these components, the team, the leader, or the goal will not be effective or carried out. For example, let's think of soccer. There are the players, there's normally a coach, and there's also a goal, and you're trying to get the most points. If you don't have a goal, then there's no point in playing the game. If you don't have a coach orchestrating things, or at least a team captain to tell people, oh, you're in this position and you're in that position, then team members might be just kind of running around, and they may not know quite what they're doing. And if you don't have the actual team members who are playing soccer itself, then you can't even do anything. You need the people power in order to do stuff. So these components really rely on each other in order for everything to be effective within leadership. The customs, attitudes, and values of a civilization influence how we approach leadership. And that is equal to culture. So different cultures have different forms of leadership, and in America, there are a few different assumptions that come with that. There's this saying that leaders are born, not made. And everyone actually does have the potential to lead. It's whether or not they choose to put themselves out there or take that personal initiative amongst themselves in order to go above and beyond normal expectations. There's an assumption that you have to be in command in order to lead. But there's also an approach that goes away from this concept, where you don't necessarily have to be in command to lead. You can lead where you sit. You looking out for your wingman is leadership, because you are influencing your team member in order to effectively accomplish the mission. Sometimes people see leadership as something where you can bully people, and because you're bullying people, people will follow you. In most instances, when you bully people, they don't want to listen to you afterwards, or they will be ruled in fear, and they would rather not follow you as opposed to someone who they don't fear. Using threats, coercion, or extortion are not good leadership tools at all. If anything, they aren't really tools in general. They're just kind of blunt implements that you would bash a tree with a stick and hope it sticks. Additionally, as a leader, you should broadly serve the public good, and you shouldn't be serving your own interests. So, as leaders go, you should be moral. And sometimes people are not, and that's not good leadership, so just keep that in mind. If you see someone not acting morally, that's not a good example of leadership. What exactly makes a leader? There's several different components. A leader is a visionary, a motivator, a communicator, an expert, and a teacher. Let's talk about each of these. When a leader is a visionary, they create a future picture for their team. They balance the future with the now. An example of this would be Billy Mitchell and his vision for an independent Air Force. As a motivator, leaders know how to issue challenges to their team, and leaders can find what motivates their team and really pull on that strength in order to bring the team closer together and get stuff done. An example of this, a major example in American history, is Kennedy's challenge to America when he said, "Let's go to space, let's get onto the moon." In terms of communication and being a good communicator as a leader, you have to take an idea and you have to express it effectively with your team. If the team doesn't understand what you're asking of them, then it makes things a little bit more difficult to accomplish the mission. If you recognize the phrase, I have a dream. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King had expressed his ideas in a speech that was just very ordered. This provided a sense of confidence, and people wanted to follow that train of thought. In terms of being an expert, you don't have to know every single thing. You don't have to be the doer. You can delegate, but you do have to have experience. By possessing knowledge, you can establish a credibility and earn respect with your people. This can be seen in the example of Jimmy Doolittle and having a PhD in aeronautics, where he planned the Tokyo air raid. Leaders teach the team how to act and what to value. And an example of this would be Anne Sullivan teaching Helen Keller, who was blind and deaf. Understanding these different components into what makes a leader can be very beneficial to build that foundation with your people and with your team to develop that trust and respect and eventually accomplish the mission. There are some theories about how a leader is created, and I'm going to go into two different theories that involve the great man theory and trait theory. And this is a little bit of personality trait theory. Great man theory is just looking and observing those positive examples of historical leaders. And an example of this would be Winston Churchill and his leadership with Great Britain. And this just focuses on the examples of stories of people who are successful, and these people have like that magical quality to make things work. This doesn't exactly explain failure. It idealizes leadership, and this isn't actually followed by the US Air Force. The US Air Force explains leadership as being built from experience, education, and training. And you don't want to be guilty of hero worship. So if you think of Superman and focusing on how he does everything right, not everyone can be Superman. I had mentioned trait theory, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I might talk about my experience with personality psych, just in addition to what the book talks about. In this theory, leadership is studied through how personality and character are. And leaders have unique personalities. Nobody is exactly the same, and everyone has their own approaches, experience, and personalities. Trait theory suggests that a leader can command all situations, and also says that only certain types of people can lead. As a little bit of an aside, we need to talk about the American flag because it is mentioned in this chapter. Flag etiquette requires respect. It is the most important and most recognized symbol of the United States. And June 14th, 1777, it was recognized as the national emblem. We celebrate June 14th as Flag Day. So that about covers everything that I wanted to talk about in this video from chapter 3. So just to summarize, we talked about the Air Force definition of leadership, the American assumptions of leadership, what makes a leader, a little bit about great man theory and trait theory, and also a small amount about the American flag etiquette. Just as a reminder, if you are watching these videos and you are doing the Learn to Lead chapters, please read the books. You can't just learn from these videos, and I'm not nearly going in as much depth as the books are. That concludes this video. Thank you so much for watching, and that is all, folks. Until next time, toodles.